What's up, guys? Welcome to the Outer Nexus. Tonight, we are going to be going over the strange behavior of 3i Atlas, and also we'll get into the underwater bases that Tim Burchett was talking about on Tucker Carlson. But initially, I really did not want to cover 3i Atlas a whole lot because, I mean, like Moist Critical said, there's a pretty good chance it's just a weird comet. But, that does not really seem to be the case. And I was thinking, if it does something really weird, then it deserves being covered. And it just did a couple really, really, really weird things. First thing is, the first sign of the weirdness for what Avulob was predicting is if this thing changes course by a significant amount. And it did that. Hold on, I'll pull this up. So the interstellar visitor 3i Atlas isn't following the path NASA predicted. It's accelerating towards a hidden perihelion behind the sun, a 1,000,000-kilometer deviation, growing wider by the hour. So it's like, okay, all right, so that's interesting. And then this happens. NASA quietly activates planetary defense network for 3i Atlas without saying a word. Buried in tonight's official MPEC 2025 U142, the Minor Planet Center's internal bulletin is an editorial notice that says it all. Announcement of IAWN Comet Astrometry campaign November 27, 2025 to January 27, 2026. The campaign will target Comet 3i Atlas. Be clear that this is not a Reddit rumor, 4chan leak. This is straight from the IAU, hosted on Harvard's Minor Planet Center, issued on behalf of NASA's International Asteroid Warning Network, the same group that coordinates global tracking in planetary defense scenarios. So this is what's happening. For the first time in history, an interstellar object has been formally enrolled in a planetary defense level observation campaign. And I think the reason for that is because this thing follows its trajectory, has this deviation, it goes behind the sun, and then this happens. And this is the craziest part, in my opinion. It goes around the sun, and then it gets hit by a massive solar flare, one that wasn't really predicted. They didn't see this one coming, and it's pretty big. So this guy says, if Atlas eats this solar flare unscathed, it's almost certainly not a comet, as we've come to use the term. I'm not claiming it's a UFO or an alien mothership, but it's also growing increasingly unlikely that it's a comet. All of the space agencies are shut down. NASA's silent, ESA is silent, China's space stations are silent. So this is what happened, and this is posted by Stephen Burns. So this is like the moment that this thing is in the direction of this coronal ejection. It's like it comes in from this side behind the sun, and it's somewhere around here. And then boom. Like, wow. Okay. So that just happened. And along with all of this, we have Trump declaring NASA to be a spy agency now. It's now an intelligence agency, specifically. So we'll see the direction that NASA takes with that kind of decision. And SETI revises its alien protocols. It just updates its alien protocols. Just so happens, just recently. So another interesting thing happened. And that was when, it has this anti-tail, which is pointed right at the sun. Well, not right at the sun, but in the direction of the sun, not its exact trajectory. Which is just bizarre. We've never really seen that before, aside, I think, from a few things. Or we just never seen that before at all.
No, I think we've seen it before, but obviously this one's much larger.
This one is and it's unprecedented to see something like that on something like this. It's just very unusual. However, that anti-tail, as it was getting closer to the sun, shifted into a normal tail. And for a brief respite, Skeptics were like, see, it's just a comet. And then it changed direction and went behind the sun, and that coronal mass ejection happened. And so Avi Loeb immediately comes out with this article. So there's the images of this thing, of it shifting. I believe yeah, there it is. And now it's shifting to the sun. And what's interesting here is what he says down here. He gets into the details in this article, but then he brings up this little statement here. My colleague, Adam Hibbard, pointed out that if the object is an alien spacecraft slowing down and the antitail is braking thrust, then this change from antitail to tail would be entirely expected near perihelion. In that case, the transition would constitute a technosignature in the form of an unexpected phenomenon indicative of controlled maneuvering, possibly with the intention of achieving a bound heliocentric orbit between Mars and Jupiter's orbits. So that's pretty interesting that he throws that in there, and that this shift from an antitail to a tail could actually be considered a potential technosignature from a controlled device. Because here's the other thing. Here we go. So this is Daily Mail. The object has displayed several unusual features that defy typical behavior of comets, including an antitail, a jet of particles that points towards the sun rather than away from it. According to release, scientists will be running a special training exercise. Telescopes tracking systems around the world will focus on 3i Atlas to refine methods for pinpointing its exact location in the sky. So here it is right there. And here is one of the most recent pictures of it. So this is the most recent picture of it. And this is like right before it goes behind the sun. And what Angry Astronaut said is it looks like a structure with a jet. It looks like a structure with a jet coming out of it. And apparently it's shooting a jet of water out of it, but it's not actually losing that much ice mass. So it's hard to determine where that's coming from. They're calling it a test of improved astrometry methods. In other words, the object isn't behaving like it should, one person wrote on X. When every telescope from Mauna Kea to Chile is being synced on one object, that's not a drill, another user posted. The Daily Mail reached out to NASA on Wednesday, but the agency maintained that the entire space program is currently closed due to ongoing government shutdown and did not comment further. But NASA could still update their website while the government is closed. It is part of IAWN, along with the likes of the European Space Agency, which are all helping to organize this as a team effort to keep Earth safe from nearby asteroids and comets. NASA isn't launching rockets to defend the planet from Atlas, with the announcement treating this major event more like a tip-sharing exercise for stargazers everywhere. While scientists claimed they do not plan to begin the worldwide watch party until late November, Atlas is just days away from making its closest approach from the sun. Okay, so this is a little earlier. Loeb has theorized that this shocking maneuver is a telltale sign of spacecraft using the gravity of a large star to change its speed and course. Before its recent strange behavior near the sun, Atlas was scheduled to make its closest path by Earth in December, but skeptics claim that activating the planetary warning system is proof that government officials fear this is no harmless comet. So there it is from earlier in August, and it kind of looks weird there with the tail pointing. And there it is. Loeb explained that in space travel, the best time to speed up or slow down a spacecraft is when it's closest to a large object, since firing the engine at that point, known as the O-berth effect, gives the biggest change in speed. Atlas will reach its best window for an O-berth maneuver in 1 week when it comes close. Whether it's a comet or something sent by an intelligence elsewhere in the galaxy, astronomers have concluded that it could be gigantic, with a diameter more than 28 miles. If Atlas is a massive mothership, it will likely continue along its original gravitational path and ultimately exit the solar system. Okay, that's a weird take, but yeah, all right. If it's a massive mothership, it's just going to keep on going. All right. The professor has previously suggested that Atlas could be a nuclear-powered craft after the Hubble Space Telescope revealed a picture that appeared to show the object generating its own light this summer during its closest pass by Mars on October 3rd. Space probes sent back images which seemed to suggest that 3 Atlas was a giant cylindrical object coated in nickel, causing it to glow green. But I think that one was kind of debunked. Maybe. This has fueled even more speculation that the comet is an extraterrestrial probe, as human spacecraft use nickel in the same way to protect them from super hot rocket exhaust. Okay, so that's a little speculative of an article right there. Interesting. So let's get into this one, because this one might be a little more in depth. All right. Unique characteristics never before observed in a celestial body. So these are the really good images of this thing. This is one of the more recent ones, and that does not really resemble any kind of comet that or asteroid that we're aware of. Atlas has reversed its jet direction, so on and so forth. Let's see. According to the model published by Loeb and researcher Eric Keto, this change results from intense surface heating as Atlas approaches the sun, causing frozen carbon dioxide to sublimate directly into gas. This process carries water ice fragments in it, creating the visible glow at distances of 3 to 4 times Earth distance from the sun. Water ice fragments dominate the scattering signal, but closer in, long-lasting dust particles take over, forming the conventional tail now observed. However, Abedam Hiddard, a colleague of Loeb, he has his theory as well. The object exhibits 8 documented anomalies that set it apart from any previously observed interstellar visitor. As Loeb stated on Fox News, Atlas is at least 1,000 times more massive than previous interstellar objects and travels within the plane of the planets around the sun with only a 1 in 500 chance of random alignment. The composition shows only 4% water, extremely low for a comet. It displays a nickel to iron ratio that we only find in industrial produced nickel alloys. Additionally, the object arrived from the same direction as the famous WOW signal detected in 1977, which has never been explained. On October 29th, Atlas will reach the perihelion at 203 million kilometers from the sun, positioned directly behind the sun from Earth's perspective and completely unobservable. This timing coincides with the optimal window for what spaceflight engineers call the O-berth effect, when a spacecraft moving at peak velocity near a massive object can most efficiently change its trajectory. If I was trying to avoid us noticing that it releases mini probes or doing some maneuver, that would be the perfect timing, Loeb noted, adding that this is when an engine thrust in the direction of motion gains the biggest amount of kinetic energy. And there it is, taken by the 2-meter twin telescope in the Canary Islands, comprised of 159 stacked exposures, each 50 seconds long. Okay, here we go. So this is what Dobsonian Power came up with his, and it just looks very unusual. Looks like a fronted heat shield, the jet towards the sun. And also faint extended puff like a small cone towards upper left. No tail, a dark nucleus due to inverted color, 100% raw picture, non-processed. Okay. So there's that. That's a better look at it there. Given the evidence, it becomes impossible to deny that something truly unusual from outside the solar system is visiting us. All the anomalies presented by 3i Atlas, along with what appears to be its true appearance, raise questions about what we're facing, whether a truly unique celestial body or something even more enigmatic, like a technological spacecraft. Indeed, empirically, we still do not know. Further observations along with better data collection are necessary. And yeah, this interaction with the sun that it had kind of reminds me of this little bad boy right here. I don't know if anybody remembers this guy. If you look at the lower left-hand corner of the sun, right down there, this is called the sun sipper. It's very, very unusual. It doesn't look like any normal solar flare we've ever really seen. I mean, it could look similar to some, but that's just straight up bizarre. I think that was in 2012, something like that, and that's an image of it. I don't. That might actually be AI. I don't know what that is. That's interesting. Here we go. That's weird. And it forms. It's like a shield absorbing energy from the sun, and then it just shoots off. Very bizarre. So I really did not want to get into this because this kind of stuff could be CGI, it could be AI, it could be whatever. But
we've all seen Sora recently.
we've seen this could be Sora. This could just be Sora. I mean, it would be perfect for this. The problem is it's got tons of views and there's no community notes on it at all on X. And normally that's corrected pretty quick. So what they're saying is the Japanese space agency doesn't give a fuck, and they are releasing images of this thing, which is pretty on point for Japan. They are into proving if UFOs are real or not. So if this, it would make sense that Japan would just be like, no, this is what we saw here. But again, this could be totally AI, could be totally bullshit. Let me pull this up. So that does not look like a normal comet. That kind of looks like either one big ship or like a fleet of a bunch of ships. I don't know. We're going into extreme speculation here. The thing about it is it's so difficult like some of this stuff is so hard to believe because it's just like are we really living in the sci-fi timeline where a giant alien ship just comes in and announces itself? Like, it's pretty on the nose at that point. What's your opinion about all this? Like, the thing, don't get me wrong, my body is totally ready for that event. I am like, if that's real, if we're getting the alien spaceship coming in,
yeah.
Oh man, I am totally on board with that. But it's just so on the nose that it's like, man, it feels like bullshit.
So, I mean, one of the main things I would definitely bring up, and
yeah,
I do want to say from the beginning, like,
yeah,
I would want it to be aliens. Okay.
Yeah.
I actually watched a video recently by Hank Green.
Yeah.
And I think it hits it pretty much on the nose. It's like, I would want it to be aliens. It's probably not.
Yeah.
And, like when you see, something like this, it's like, maybe. But I doubt this one's real. That particular picture, that last.
Yeah, I didn't really want to pull it up because I doubt it's real. But there's no community. There's a ton of views on it. No community. Nobody's corrected that.
Well, and that's also part of the problem with what NASA's doing right now.
Yeah.
And I will say too, 3A Atlas is only one of like 3 large interstellar objects.
No, this is the large. The other 2 are very. This is 1,000 times.
Oh no! I'm just saying that we've seen recently, like So we haven't really tracked many interstellar objects. Like this is just number 3. I've heard that some speculate like this is number 8 technically or something like that, but 3 is what I normally see listed. So anything that you're only tracking 3 of or 8 of, you just don't have a lot of data on. So they're intrinsically going to be weird because it's like no one else ever did that. Well, there's only been 3.
Yeah.
So I do give it some leeway there. But
however, the other physical characteristics of it are they're very. I mean, like the thing is, we're going to have to be updating our science books because of this thing.
Well, no, yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing when you also have 3.
Yeah.
It's like when these things come in and they do something weird, it's like, well, that's the first time we saw that.
Yeah.
That's an update.
Yeah.
Even if it's not aliens, even if it's not anything, but it's still an update because it's like, well, that's the first time we saw it.
Yeah.
So there's that. The other thing I would say for NASA,
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's just extremely poor timing.
Extreme.
And what I would say for that is, I think the people at NASA,
Yeah.
like the people that care about this thing,
Yeah.
are actually the ones that activated the defense thing.
No, that was a separate organization.
No.
He may have been in contact.
No, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
To have it act, because I think what happened is there's so many problems with them getting funding right now
Mhm.
that they probably thought the best way to get the funding was to make it an active, like, hey, we need to study this,
Mhm.
and that way all cameras turn towards it.
Right. And so that's the deal.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
But why aren't they sharing? Why is every space agency across the planet
Putting something out? Yes.
not like shutting down?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know
No,
what I mean? That's
it's weird.
That's not just extremely poor timing. That's coordination.
Yes, and there is an amount of coordination. I will say, like,
what could that possibly be? And that it's like a lot of people are speculating that the meeting with the generals and the admirals with Hegseth, that was actually what this was about.
And there could be something there about it, and that's where you get the meeting with.
Yeah,
but
that's when it would happen. Like, all right, we all got to get in the same room now.
Yeah, but I mean, it could, like I said, it could also just be, and it's not aliens till it is, or it's something of that nature.
I mean, that's always going to be the case, but I'm talking about the weirdness. You know what I mean? And the weirdness is beyond strange now. We're getting into, like, and the timing of the coronal mass, it goes behind the sun in a coronal mass, it changes directory and goes behind the sun, and there's a coronal mass ejection. Like, what are the actual odds of something like that?
Well, the thing is with a lot of odds is, like, even he says in Avi says,
we're talking about so many weird things all lining up and happening at once that it, like, I think Grok said it was like a 1 in a billion chance with all these anomalies happening.
Well, that's the whole thing with chance is it can always be 1 in a billion, and like like Avi said on here, like, in order to line up with the plane of the planets, it was 1 in 500 or something like that. So it was unlikely that it would have done that. Yeah. But it did. It hit the plane. Mm-hmm. When you have something that you're not sure of what it's going to do, and you plot its trajectory, and then all of a sudden it's been releasing different water vapor or whatever, the different things, because it's probably heating up, getting close to the sun. That's when it all of that, every time it ejects something, it's actually changing course slightly.
Slightly, but not like a 1,000,000-mile deviation.
Well, that's the whole thing with over time. It can become something like a 1,000,000-mile deviation, because if they saw it back, when it was like near Jupiter, and they're like, oh, it's doing this. Then it gets closer to the sun, more stuff melts, more stuff ejects out because it's getting closer. They didn't take that into account.
So what if it does something incredibly unusual, and it's pretty obvious that it's intelligently controlled?
Like, for instance, I'll give you for instance, like, if the thing stopped, like, that would be very questionable, like, to the point where I wouldn't have. I would just put my skeptic down, and I'd be like, all right, let's watch from here on out.
Well, okay, but what if it it maybe not stopped, but sort of starts heading towards us, and then maybe starts being part of our orbit, just orbiting around our planet?
I mean, that would be odd, but I wouldn't. I'd hold off on that one too. Like, I'd be like, hey, that's a good thing in a way, because it's like, okay, now we're either gonna get aliens, or we're gonna have a really good chance to study this thing.
Okay, and so final question, what if it does all that, and it's very clearly like they took an asteroid, carved it out, and there's like fucking murals on it and everything, and it's like an actual ship. Like that's an actual ship. What if it's there in our atmosphere and it's a fucking actual ship?
Like the picture.
Like that,
So, I mean, if they came up and, like, say, I got closer to Earth, and it's like, now with a standard, not standard, but a nice telescope that you spend a lot of money on, or
Yeah.
a government spends money on.
Basically,
You can
what
see
if that's real?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And you can see that.
Yeah.
It's like at that point, I mean, then you're talking
that is a timeline shift.
Well, there's only because now you're talking only two things.
Yeah.
And I won't actually say one of them is aliens.
Okay.
But the other one is a breakaway
civilization.
So it's one of our things.
That and see, that is actually what I lean more towards.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, because that'll be my theory for the end, and we'll get into that. So. Oh, and just by the way, the drones are still happening. The mysterious drones are happening all over the world still. Totally unexplained. You had a military contractor come out and said, it was our VTOL flying car thing. I've seen that thing. It wasn't that. I mean, maybe they were doing testing on that. There was speculation that Cadillac was testing out its VTOL craft during that time period. But what people were seeing was not exactly that. It was glowing orbs, things like that. I think Copenhagen Airport shut down, multiple airport shutdowns across Northern Europe. These and there's just no explanation at all. There's just absolutely no explanation at all. If it was a state actor, you would bet your ass they would be blaming Russia for this. Those guys, and they did. There was a little, they tried to throw out, oh, it was the Russians, but that died down quick because these drones that were interacting with these airports were basically disappearing. They could see them, but they could not track them in any way, and. Those countries have some of the best air forces in the world. There's absolutely no reason why the Germans and or the Nordic countries would have been unable to track these things. So now we're getting even more strange stuff happening. Let me pull this dude up. This is a YouTuber, James. This is.
Now this one looks crazy.
This one looks crazy, but let's go through it.
Yeah,
it could be something nothing
else. Yeah.
It could be, but the thing is, there's multiple angles of this.
Yes, I saw the other angles,
and it's like, okay, well, that's really weird. Now let's get into it. All right.
Abito 117 6 days ago in Cucuta, Colombia, and this is one wild video. That's emitting light from behind a cloud, isn't it? At certain moments, it also looks like a light show, but I'm not sure.
That looks like a light show. With the white lights look like a light show.
So this guy over here, Luis Avendivala,
And
5
then
days
here's
ago,
another
has
angle
a better
of
view of the
this
object. Let's take a look at this.
Ahí estamos viendo un fenómeno que se ha aparecido en este
Maybe the
momento
same
allá en
light
el
show?
cielo. Es una luz
But that doesn't look like
entre
light show
azul y
lights at all.
verdosa,
That one does
toda
not.
rara.
So there's other videos like this one, 4 days ago. This guy's gonna zoom in on the object, whatever this thing is. Look.
That in particular.
What's pretty amazing is that looking at all of the videos that people captured of this thing, I don't see the light source on the ground. I don't see light.
Yeah, there's
from
no
the ground
beam coming
emitting
up
to the sky.
That's the problem. It's like super foggy and there's no beam
It looks
actually
like
coming
this
up.
thing's actually, it's going through the clouds. So if this is a laser or whatever it is, if it's an object that's cloaked behind the clouds, it's pretty weird. This is not the first sighting of something like this. The last one, I guess, was in Las Vegas, and no one knows what those things were. They were clearly behind the clouds.
That's spooky as hell. That right there looks like when you summon your capital ship above you in No Man's Sky, and it's just hanging in the sky behind the clouds, and all you can see is the lights. But so yeah, the obvious conclusion is maybe it's just a light show. The problem is it's super foggy and we don't see the beams coming up from the ground. Now, those white lights from earlier, definitely, those look like light show strobe lights or whatever the hell. Now, this could just be something just weird, but from the multiple angles, man, it's beyond weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's very weird. I would now. I don't know if I'd go beyond. The reason I think it kind of gets classified that way though is because of the extra spooky with the
Well,
you can't tell.
You
Like,
can't tell.
There's nothing.
There's like nothing.
Yeah.
And but that's how the phenomenon seems to present itself. And then we have this. Now people are saying this might be AI, but this is like from a government official in Mexico. So apparently this was captured on his ranch. And it's these things, which are also seen in Skinwalker Ranch, as a matter of fact. So these are orbs that are just hovering over the ground. And yeah, it's bizarre because this particular phenomenon matches up with maybe not this part so much, but the other orbs. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, like this. Here we go. This really matches up a lot with the kind of plasma orbs that, you know, that are considered UFO phenomena. I believe I saw one of these things when I was a child. And they're just very unusual. They seem to have some sort of sentience. They seem to be doing something. And they like go into the ground. They're giving off light in their surrounding areas. Very unusual stuff. I don't know what your opinion of that is, though.
No, I don't have much on those. There's not much to go on. Like,
Yeah,
it's light.
Yeah.
It's weird that it's moving like that.
And this kind of phenomenon has been recorded and studied at Skinwalker Ranch as totally anomalous.
Yeah, I mean, have seen other videos of that in particular. The only thing I can think of is
ball lightning. But dude, ball lightning, that's like swamp gas or sleep paralysis, man. Like, you're just saying, just giving a name to you don't know.
That's exactly what it is. And I have no problem saying that's exactly what it is, because there isn't much to go on.
Well, I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah.
At that point, there's just there's very little information about that kind of thing. So, let's get into another strange thing just happened. Dr. Beatriz Villarreal submitted her paper to a very large repository where physicists and astronomers share their preprints archive. It's spelled ARXIV. And this is a peer-reviewed paper. And basically, the gist of the paper is she took these plates. This was before any kind of satellite was in the sky. She took these plates, these astronomy plates that were made in the 40s to the 50s, before we had any satellites up there. And she was able to determine that there were lights in these plates that were not ours. They weren't stars. They weren't anything that we were familiar with. But they were reflective metal surfaces in space. And she took thousands of these plates and compared them and did scientific research on them and got it peer-reviewed by other astronomers in her field, and came to the conclusion that these were truly anomalous because we did not have anything like that up there. And when she tried to submit this work, she got extremely hostile backlash over it. Let me pull this up. So for someone on your side of the fence who would be part of the extreme backlash, why would something like this?
So I don't like how you were wording that one. But you see, there's two sides on my side.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you give them enough distinction.
Who's the skeptic guy? Mike, what's his name? Mike, he does the Skeptic magazine.
I'm not sure of his name.
You watched him all the time. Michael Shermer.
Oh, Michael. Okay.
Michael Shermer. So I love Michael Shermer type skeptics. They are very careful, and to just like you. But they still keep an open mind.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one type.
Yeah.
I would fall into that group.
Yeah.
Then there's the other group that is doing science and research for the sake of science and research.
Yeah.
And they would uphold standards that actually turn down real data.
Yeah.
Like that's not really a problem for them.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times sometimes it can be like, oh, it would interfere with something that they're doing.
Right, exactly. And I think that's the case here.
And I don't always think that's like, like saying that they're like scientists that deal with like aliens. It's just that they don't like whatever it is that you're particularly doing. Yeah.
Exactly. Whatever you're and she's not even saying like it's aliens or anything. Yeah. She's just saying like these are objects up here that are recorded that are definitely not ours, and they're totally anomalous.
Yeah, because when you have a system, science is, a system that we use, you can have zealots.
Yeah.
And there are.
Yeah. There was this one dude, I think his name is Chetsford, maybe not him. But he posted on Twitter this gif of Leonardo DiCaprio with a flamethrower and this extremely angry face just burning down papers. Like, dude, is that the vibe we're doing here now? Like, we're gonna have that much extreme backlash against potentially, maybe some of the first evidence that something else is kind of here. But anyway, let's move on to less speculative things, or maybe more speculative. It might even be more speculative. So Tim Burchett goes on Tucker Carlson, and he basically lays it out on the table and spills the beans on underwater UFO basis.
So who's Tim Burchett, and why should we care?
Tim Burchett is one of the Congress people in the House of Representatives that is one of the flag bearers for the UAP disclosure stuff, along with Anna Paulina Lunar. He's a sitting congressman right now working on legislation involving this. He has had multiple interviews with high-level individuals concerning this subject. He worked with David Grush, along with Eric Burleson, all the UFO whistleblowers. David Grush kind of unlocked a lot of the directions that they should be going in because he was part of that program to track these objects. And Tim Burchett, he comes out on Tucker Carlson and he lays out that there are either 5 or 6 underwater UFO bases in the deepest parts of the planet, in the Mariana Trench, somewhere around the Bermuda Triangle, the Puerto Rican Trench. That I think Puerto Rican Trench kind of leads into the Bermuda Triangle, and other locations around the world. But the ones that are that we track the most, basically, are the ones off of California and down in Puerto Rico. And they're basically, they're real. They're down there. And I do kind of want to get into the 4chan whistleblower about this, because a lot of this is starting to line up in that direction. And I know the 4chan UFO whistleblower is very controversial, but it seems like things are kind of going in that direction now. In fact, it even said you'll find yourself coming back to this more and more over the years as this stuff is confirmed. All right, so let's watch a little bit of this and see what Billy thinks.
I had a very high-ranking member of the Navy describe some underwater experiences they'd had with something that was doing 200 miles. And the best thing we got is probably 40.
It was doing 200 miles an hour underwater.
Underwater, big as a football field. And that's no fish.
So is it possible, given our current understanding of physics, for any man-made machine to go anywhere near 200 miles an hour underwater?
Not with our technology, no. The best we have is probably in the high 30s. And he was converting it. Of course, knots is what the Navy guys would do, but there's nothing.
If I fire a 30-06 or any high caliber rifle underwater, it doesn't go 200 miles an hour. I can probably catch it in the length of a swimming pool or so.
Yeah, or it just falls down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like,
so we've got, and this was described to me in areas, and I was quoted on some. I was just all I do is quote people that have knowledge. But this was one that was he was talking about. There are 5 or 6, I think, deep water areas of the ocean. You've traveled a lot. I have not. There's not a lot of deep water areas around East Tennessee at Fort Loudon Lake or anything, but you're talking miles deep. And of course, you've heard this before. We know more about the surface of the moon than we do the surface of the ocean. And he said these are areas where we see a high propensity of these UFOs. And there was a case where it was fairly well documented. They had a multiple sightings. They were doing a maneuvers and had the ships or boats, whatever you want to call them out there. I'm not a Navy guy. And there was the sighting in the air, and the pilots radioed back and said, "Hey, is there something going on? Is there another operation? We got some secret technology stuff we're working on." They said, "We don't have any." And they, Pentagon, nobody knew about anything. And they pulled it back, and then they pulled everything back, scrubbed the mission. And then the next day, all their internet traffic had been scrubbed. But this guy was kind of a wonk, and he'd made copies of it. But the point I have there is, why would we risk multi-million-dollar apparatus? And why would we put something in the air around our best pilots that could have a crash? Because these guys are talking about there's actually, they've come close to collisions. Why would they do that? They would not do that. No, that would be stupid. I mean, there's even, I always say military intelligence, a whole lot like congressional ethics. I don't think it really exists much anymore.
Yeah, notice.
But anyway, it's I just don't think that we'd be risking that. So that's my proof that it's not ours.
So how many military personnel have you spoken to about their personal experiences with these things?
I'd say, I don't know, 8 or 9, 10 maybe. But I have to be real careful because I'm clearly somebody out there, and I'm not backing down on it. I'm not ashamed of it or anything, but
You have no reason to be ashamed of it.
No.
Why would you be ashamed of it?
Well, that's what they try to do, is they try to shame people.
Oh, are you hiding relevant secrets from the American public? I don't think you are.
No, but
why aren't they ashamed?
Well, I have to be careful about the white flags, the stuff people bring me that's not real.
Right. So then they have a whole conversation about a bunch of stuff. So there's this book from 1974 called The Devil's Triangle. I actually have this book. Hold on, let me pull up a picture of it. So this is The Devil's Triangle, and I thought it was fascinating because in The Devil's Triangle, it's a nonfiction book by Richard Weiner, and it goes over basically military reports and also credible reports from naval captain, just maritime captains around the Bermuda Triangle. And he tries to, and for example, he examines high-profile disappearances such as the USS Cyclops, a Navy collier that vanished in 1918 with over 300 crew, Flight 19, 5 U.S. Navy bombers lost in 1945, the merchant ship Marine Sulphur Queen, 1963. He provides timelines, witness reports, meteorological data, often revealing overlooked details like hurricanes or rogue waves that could explain the losses. Unlike more speculative Bermuda Triangle books, Weiner avoids paranormal claims like UFOs or time warps. He attributes most events to natural causes, extreme weather, human error, magnetic anomalies affecting compasses, the region's heavy shipping and air traffic. But the narrative acknowledges strange and unusual phenomenon. But he does describe highly unusual events. Like I think it was Flight 19, these Navy bombers go into the Bermuda Triangle and they just disappear. No wreck, nothing. So it's interesting reading this because he's trying to avoid any kind of supernatural or UFO conclusion. but the events and the effects that are being described sound exactly like what has been described by the 4chan whistleblower and kind of what Tim Burchett is describing, like strange lights underneath the water, just fleets of ships just disappearing completely. If you go back and read that book, I think you'd find it very fascinating if you're interested in stuff like this. But we are going to get into this a little bit. Hold on. Not that. We're going to get into this a little bit, the 4chan whistleblower, and then I'll ask Billy's opinion because oh yeah, and also this. Hang on. So yeah, I am gonna tie this in because I think this is what they look like. I think this was one of the events. So back in 1986, Japanese Captain Terauchi and his crew on Japanese Airlines Flight 1628, they had an encounter with a massive ship. He shows this drawing of the kind of ship that he encountered that kind of floated up to his crew, and the entire crew saw it. This is very well documented. The whole crew saw this thing. It was terrifying. He's still to this day trying to find answers, unless he died. I'm not sure if he's still alive, but I know he stuck with this story his entire life and trying to figure out what the hell this thing was. And what he's describing here is a craft that I believe is the same craft that's described by the 4chan whistleblower, and what Tim Burchett is basically referring to, and the thing that's whatever is in the Devil's Triangle. So I don't think we've ever gone over this on this YouTube channel yet, and I really didn't want to get into this, but it really feels like this is kind of playing out now. I have intimate knowledge of what the U.S. currently knows about UFOs minus the last 2 years. This is 2003. UFOs are primarily unmanned drones. UFOs are built to spec each time they are deployed. UFOs are created by a mobile construction facility that hides in the ocean. The construction facility destroys anything that comes close to it and will disappear for days when approached aggressively. U.S. believes the facility has been active on Earth for at least 100 years or much longer. Let's see. Doesn't officially exist. I won't use the internal name on here. The U.S. seems to believe so. Yes, there have been encounters, but my information is limited since my specialty lies elsewhere. Is there a working theory on the origins? If so, care to elaborate it? Quite a bit, but we think the construction facility has been around since at least 4000 BC. See sightings, paintings from the early eras of history. Has any form of intelligible communication been established? Yes, it also depends on your viewpoint. They mostly want very little to do with us until we start to talk about war and nuclear options. It's one of the reasons why you see them so often at critical events. Do they know who or what is creating these craft? Yes, as mentioned earlier, the mobile construction unit is responsible for their deployment and construction. Any potential they are made by a higher branch of the U.S. government? Absolutely not. What allows them to fly so fast? What technology? Gravity manipulation and the materials they are constructed from. We think the construction unit is driven by AI. The response time to threats is almost instant and usually very calculated and very well thought out. You should all pay attention to this. The majority of UFOs, as I mentioned previously, are built to spec and purpose. This is why they are always different sizes. The contents and equipment usually mimic the intended purpose, too. Is it related to that one rock under the Scandinavian country? No, this one almost never leaves the Bermuda Triangle. Governments have and have had for a while advanced gravity crafts. You asked if the particular UFOs we study are the result of a foreign government, not if other governments have shittier versions. Speed alone tells us what we are looking at. Do the UAPs return back to the manufacturing unit? Yes, some come in and leave the planet, but very rarely, usually the same number that comes in, goes out unless special circumstances arise. It feels more like a carrier, but with construction capability. What are the purposes of UAPs? Surveillance? The U.S. believes they are not here to harm us. They only seem interested in us once they realize we are destroying things around us, including each other. One of the officials in charge said something that stuck with me. They act like keepers of a zoo, uninterested in the daily life of wildlife until there's a problem. The last unit we saw approach the facility didn't even have time to communicate. They were attacked before it was over. Let's see. They cut their losses when crashes are recovered. Same with personnel. Zookeepers aren't friends with the animals. Do you know if the entities behind the UFOs are native to Earth, like older civilization, breakaway civilization, or civilization of humans that escaped a previous cycle of cataclysm due to their advanced tech? Limited expertise since my role is craft and analysis. U.S. believes they're foreign to our world. A previous cataclysm could make sense. They also show up in times of strife, such as natural events. There are rumors among my coworkers that they had psionic abilities, but honestly, it rarely comes up in conversation. Based on previous disappearances and acts of hostility, we believe the construction facility carrier has learned what is and isn't hostile. Usually it will just move away or stay deep under the water. It doesn't fire on civilian boats, for example. I think that's why that thing came up and just looked at Terauchi and then went away. Exceptions apply when we have seen one or two go missing, usually after sharp turns. What units have been lost approaching this construction machine? Why have they not sent a Seawolf to investigate the Jimmy Carter with its nanotech? Everything you could think of, really. At one point, nuclear missiles were being toyed with again, and we deployed fighters and a sub with serious intent. Everything except the sub was lost. How have they come to the conclusion the UAP being released are ET? If they don't know what the UAP are to begin with, or if there's nothing inside it, it's a pretty big jump to go to ET. They crash sometimes. Parts fail, and gravity engines near the surface of the planet can be like crossing an intersection. We recover these and sometimes find passengers. We mostly see drones now. Back in the earlier days, we saw a lot more piloted craft. Didn't even have time to communicate any details on what happened. Normal approach details. Pilot responsive and actively talking. The feed cuts out. Pilot still talking. Suddenly nothing. Poor guy likely had no idea it was likely a suicide mission. Based on what we've seen, the construction facility has far superior weapons than the UFOs do. This weapon destroys the matter it hits entirely. It also shits on anything electronic in the vicinity. So that could explain weird electromagnetic effects. Contents and equipment usually mimic the intended purpose too, like the equipment shared a pattern specific to its purpose. Yes, usually when we find a thinner model, for example, it would have no pilot and a lot of sensory hardware. My favorite is finding one that is fitted for research. If we are lucky, we find things that we have never seen before. Before I left, we were looking at what we thought was some kind of lab for genetics. Are you talking about the one shaped like a pear or a burger? Disregard, it's the burger ones. Is it size, shape, and speed are usually the factors we use to determine what the purpose of the UFO is. We get it wrong sometimes. They can be quite large, and both pear and burger shapes are known builds. Is this the burger shaped ones, or it's both? I've had two orange orbs approach me to within 100 feet one night, glowing translucent but rather dim, like the setting sun seen through smog. We saw a video of one of those. They were flying in a 45-degree formation like this. Research science vessels sometimes have mobile light producing cameras used for multiple purposes, from scouting to keeping threats contained or at bay. These are shaped like hammers, and when operated are extremely bright. Red lights are a sign of hostility or caution to deploy weapons. Orange lights are usually for spotting minerals or living things. As soon as I blanked my flashlight, they accelerated to 1,000 knots and disappeared over the horizon. Not surprised, the range on those is quite large. The UFO is likely somewhere above you, quite high. Is the underwater base near Catalina Island creating these? No, this one has only left the Atlantic Ocean twice. Both times were before I arrived. Are aliens human or humanoid? Humanoid, very humanoid. So then he gets into, okay, here we go. So I'd assume this is a sort of AI design that seems to be advanced yet already prepared for the get-go. If the vessel is something scientific, you may encounter things like tools, as previously mentioned, akin to a lab. We thought it was of it more is I need to go hiking, so the construction facility builds your UFO and packs it full of hiking supplies and even adjusts the shape and fit to what was packed. Do you think there are fewer piloted crafts because the population is declining? No, the common consensus is that they are just being careful. I heard recovery of living pilots doesn't usually go well for either of us. What do the passengers look like? Biological or android? Bio. Okay, that's interesting. One name sticks out. You didn't mentioning Bob Lazar by name would likely have you taken out back and put down like a dog. Do the math on why. Out of everything ever found regarding UFOs in general, what is your personal favorite? New engine was deployed with a very large model that I had never seen before. We usually see 3 to 5 gravity producing engines. This one had 7. Favorite object, probably the lab, since we never fully understood how it worked before it was destroyed. Makes me wonder whether a meaningful distinction between scientific study and amusement still exists for them, if it ever did. This was before my time, but they talked about a bus UFO that had more occupants than hardware. Most of the intended purpose appeared to be for physical viewing. I wondered if they ever just wanted to look at the animals. A strangely recurring theme. At minimum, they have psychotronic devices of some sort. This reminded me of something my first year. UFO crashes. They remove the bodies well before my team arrives. We start to look, and the craft is unpowered at first. A few minutes later, the craft powers on and starts to close up. We radio out and get a response from the unit, removing one of the occupants that they are working on. Ship powers off, and the other team asks if we are good to go. No mention of how access was possible. I suspect the pilot may have interfaced with the ship by remote or psionic ability. Lots of tools they use to produce light. If this is still about the orb, the shell you may have seen was just the light around the device I call the hammer. More than one construction facility. You mentioned one in the Bermuda Triangle. I suspect there may be, since we only watch the Atlantic Ocean, and the UFOs we track normally don't stray too far from home base. Asking about it would have been a bad move. Is the MCU you were talking about a burger shape or pear shape? I need to know. Burgerish. I misunderstood and thought you meant the UFOs, not the carrier construction facility. So the construction facility is shaped like a burger, like basically what Terauchi saw. Somewhere that UFO navigation systems require an ET whose own personal wavelength has been specifically attuned to the neural network of the craft. This tracks somewhat for me. When we look at the craft, we usually have to force certain things to work. 2 teams come behind mine so that they could be dedicated to understanding the craft. Then he kind of gets into a bunch of random stuff after that, essentially. So with all of that sort of in consideration, if 3i Atlas, here's the thing. Here's my big theory. What if the planet, and I think we've talked about this before, has an ancient drone defense network that is also used maybe even for terraforming the planet? Maybe there's multiple, Earth-like planets out there with this system built in, this AI system. The AI that we're developing right now triggered this system, and this system was like, hey, these monkeys have nukes and AI now. This is gonna be a problem for everybody now. And it sent a message back to home base, and now the fleet's coming in to take the nukes away from the monkeys.
I mean, that's not really much of an issue.
Oh, it would solve a lot of our fucking problems. It wouldn't be an issue, but so that's my little pet theory, the Atlantean theory, I like to call it. And we don't even have to talk about that. But what do you think? Taking all of these factors into consideration, you have a congressman coming out saying that they're verified that there are these underwater bases, What's your takeaway, Billy?
So, I mean, if we just go with the congressman for now, and disregard some of what is here, we go with what the congressman said. I mean, it's his job to bring these things to light. Yeah. And if he didn't have anything to bring to light, that would be a problem. Right. So, I mean, it's easy kind of to bring to light things that we have video for. Like when those jets go out and they come back and they're like, tic tac. Well, I I have surveillance footage.
Yeah.
You know,
And we have surveillance footage of the Tic Tacs.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, it's easier to be like, well, you definitely experienced something.
Yeah.
But it's always, what is that something?
Right.
And I think that's really the question we're both looking at, but from slightly different angles at times.
Yeah.
And because there's the ones where it's like, no, this is totally fake.
Yeah. For sure.
On both parties. Like,
Right.
no. There's the ones that are like, and I think this is why that guy exists. Is I think he exists to actually deflect from the things that he knows are actual projects. And he does not know what actual projects would be on a breakaway civilization level.
Right.
He knows what our government has going on. And if something from those programs is leaked, he's like, yeah, that we're not talking about that at all. Like, those get, you know, thrown into the briefcase and never seen again.
And we're not really talking about those in particular, you know.
No. So, but what I am saying is now we're into the third case, which is he knows something exists and it's not ours.
Yeah.
So from a government standpoint, he can tell the truth as much as he wants. Yeah. Because he does not know. Yeah. He's in the same.
But you have to take into consideration, like another thing that we didn't bring up, is the Age of Disclosure movie is coming out November 21st on Amazon. And in that, you have 34 high-ranking government officials, like half of which are still in the government right now. You have Marco Rubio on camera saying UFOs are 100% real. They interact with our nuclear sites. Like, he's doing the thing. You know what I mean? Because nobody's going to believe Trump. So he's doing the thing. You know what I mean?
And he can. Yeah. I mean, because
because that stuff is not really ours. So they could be like, okay, that's not ours, but
and then do with it. And here's the thing, I hate to bring it down to like human level, but it almost is. Yeah. You know, if I was working up the chain of a government agency and I had spent my entire life doing this. Yeah. I mean, I would kind of want to be in the know. Yeah. Like, not in the group that doesn't know. The group that does know.
Exactly.
And it's like...
And that's across the board. This is the most bipartisan issue in the Senate right now. Across the board.
You know, and so wanting to be in the know, it wouldn't be hard for, you know, people like Marco Rubio or even generals to be like, you know, what is this? Or like, I have no problem telling you that I've seen these things because it's like, I want to know too.
Exactly.
And so I don't think it's necessarily additional evidence, even though they may bring additional evidence with them, like things that we've not seen yet. I think that would be pretty cool to see what else they have, maybe. Yeah. But I think it's a call out from them as well to be like, we want to know the things that you're hiding as well. Yeah. And I really think that's where we're at now, is it's like, it's either aliens. Yeah. Or it's
something from here.
A breakaway civilization, whether that be from older times or it's
something totally different.
Well, totally different, or from newer times.
Okay, yeah.
And they've slowly, like, you know, that missing couple $1 trillion.
Yeah,
you know?
$21 trillion. Yeah. That is Catherine Austin Fitts. That is breakaway civilization level cash.
Yeah. So that's where you can have those weird underwater bases, you know, bases deep inside the Arctic Circle. You know, the Arctic Circle. Yeah. You know, that's that kind of money. Yeah. You know, you can do whatever you want with that kind of money. Yeah. You know, one of the things I like to bring up, because, you know, people talk about riches a little bit, is like, you know, they're like, do you know how long like 1,000,000 seconds is?
What?
Like if you?
Oh, I think Like I don't really know. Yeah.
In days, and they're like, I don't actually know the number right off the top of my head.
It's like a couple days. Yeah.
But no, well, it's like a month.
Yeah.
It's like a month.
Yeah.
And they're like, do you know how long 1 billion seconds is? Yeah. You know, this is the next step up after the millions, and they're like, it's like 33 years. You know, it's you know, it's just way more. Yeah. And then now we're talking trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
Now, we've been saying days, but you can equate it like
$1
million in a sense of $1 trillion.
Yeah.
That's like they could spend that without even.
There's no object that we have that costs $1 trillion.
No.
You know what I mean?
No, that's world government money.
That's world government money. That's major power money. And I think, just as a weird segue, I think, again, we made a video about this. I think Jeffrey Epstein is involved in something like this. I think these issues that we're facing right now with Epstein and UFOs and declassifying all these documents, I think they're all kind of related to the same thing. I think, well, number one, I think Epstein was CIA and Mossad at the same time, and that's a real problem. But he was also studying anti-gravity. We know he was studying anti-gravity. We know he was having all of these scientists come down to his island, which is near the Bermuda Triangle, and he was probably aware of this kind of stuff, you know? And you have Terramar, which is basically an attempt at a kind of breakaway civilization, and now Trump is considering pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. So that's crazy, you know. So
are you guys still talking about?
You guys still talking about? It's like I feel like a lot of this weird stuff is all converging, and then we have the Atlanteans coming back. And they're going to just be like, what the fuck are you monkeys doing down here? You know?
Well, and that's the thing, like, you know, with aliens in general, it's like, you know, you've asked me plenty of times, like, you know, do you believe in aliens? It's like, and no, I will stick with it's not them until it is.
Yeah.
However, it would make life a lot easier if it was just like, no, they're right there.
Yeah.
like it's right there. And like, you know, and not only that, but like, you know, some of the big government things that we see that are just terrible. I absolutely hate, you know, seeing how everything costs so much and everything. It's like, and it doesn't, and you know, deep down, none of this has to be this way.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems controlled to be this way.
It's especially the events that we've seen with the current government right now. This seems like a WWE Kabuki theater scenario here. Like it actually just looks like everything is fundamentally controlled top to bottom, and there is no. In kind of a nefarious way.
Oh yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
And that's why it's like, you know, if it's like, oh, it's those aliens, like the ones that can travel throughout the you know, the whole galaxy and do these things and have these civilizations that have worked through these problems or past these problems. It's like, I'd like it to be them.
That'd be cool.
You know, that'd solve a lot of our issues, hopefully.
Yeah,
you know,
but I think this stuff is really fascinating. I think it's all kind of tied together, but hey, you know, 3A Atlas could just be a normal ass comet that we've just never really seen before.
Yeah.
And a lot of this could be bullshit, but at this point, especially because of the age of disclosure coming out, it really doesn't seem like bullshit anymore. It really seems like there is absolutely something else happening here. And yeah, I think the real question is, was this us that broke away before, or was there something that evolved before, a civilization that evolved before us, or is this some kind of advanced AI system that was set in place to monitor lesser civilizations in the case that they develop nuclear weapons? You know, they decide in case they decide to use nuclear technology as weapons, you know, because I do think if all this were to be the case, I'm definitely thinking that they are using nuclear technology. They're just not exploding it over their heads. You know, I think it's a Dune situation. In Dune, there is that in the science fiction novel series. I think there is a very similar problem in their civilization. I think it's either nukes or some kind of interaction with lasers and shields where you just don't do it. You just everybody knows you just don't do that. You don't use that in warfare because just it's not like it's morally wrong. It's just going to fuck everything up for everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and there are, things in the Geneva Convention specifically for stuff like, if both sides started doing this, it would just, be
exactly.
a problem.
Yeah.
And I mean, we only have about 2 months left to the end of the year.
Yeah.
And most of this should happen within this next 2 months. So
no,
we will see.
It's very weird timing. Number one, government's still shut down as of this video, and there is no end in sight at all. They're not doing the SNAP benefits. They're not paying federal employees. There is absolutely no end in sight. Both sides are just walking away, not even showing up for Congress anymore. Number two, you have this thing, which is going to become, I think, visible October 29th, or we're gonna see what it does October 29th. Then Age of Disclosure November 1st, and then December 21st, we will get a really, really good look at Atlas and see what it actually is. And if it turns out to be this guy, oh man, Billy. Oh man, I can't even, like, that would be so fucking crazy. Like, at that point, it's just we are in sci-fi world. If it's that,
quite literally.
Yeah, like, quite literally. Yeah. Like, there's no way around it at that point. It's just a fleet of interstellar starships has shown up on our doorstep like a science fiction movie.
Yeah, and that'll be the it'll be the dawning of a new age.
It would be the dawn of a new age. We would literally witness the dawn of a new era.
Because at this point, even though we do differ, we are technically still in the spot where, we are the only ones that we know of, at least.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
This would be, no, we're not alone.
Nope.
And if we're not alone once, there's a good chance that we're not alone a lot of times.
And that's the thing, especially if it's something like that, where it's like, it looks like dozens of ships. That looks like somewhere around 30 to 50 ships, if that's accurate. If that shows up, and it just absolutely opens the floodgate to not like Mass Effect universe, but Star Trek level. Like, there's aliens fucking everywhere. Whatever this drone system is likely used for terraforming, and it's likely done it to many other planets, and we are simply part of some sort of interstellar civilization. We were likely part of the civilization, and we didn't even know it. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, where are, and it's helped us obviously in the past, where we are in the Milky Way galaxy, we're in like a void.
Yeah.
Like, so there isn't much to interact with us around us specifically. So like, that could be helpful, because then it's like nothing's gonna, you're not gonna get like a rogue asteroid or a rogue comet very often that comes in, like the dinosaurs and wipes us out, or even just destroys the planet.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna get many of those. But at the same time, it would also mean that when we're starting out and looking at space, as we are right now, and we're looking around like anybody there, it also looks very empty.
It looks very empty, but it actually might not be.
It may not be.
At all, But, I think we'll call it there, guys. See you next time.